Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jay McGregor. I am wanting to show a cool little technique, or you could call it a trick or a gimmick or a tip. Don't really care. But let me show you how to take an image, turn the flat image, especially from a set of paper plans, into a true 3D looking picture. Okay? So, to start, I'm going to bring in some data. All right. So I'm going to go to my data called Simple Site Digitized. Okay. So it's just simple 3D data. I will go to the profile, the new 3D view, the cube on the left-hand side of the quick access toolbar. And I will put my cursor over the data, press and hold the wheel and move the mouse forward. And you can see that this is live, living, breathing 3D. It's just set the contours. It's actually the project that I use to show site takeoff. You will be seeing more of this on several different training videos. But anyway, it's existing and proposed contours. That's fine. Okay, great. All right. We're going to go back to plan view. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to bring in an image that I have for this. So I'm going to bring in my little image called Basic Digitize. It's a JPEG. Ladies and gentlemen, when you bring in an image, one page, okay, it automatically wants to do place image after it imports the background image, but it doesn't line up, okay? So the problem is place image does not get a picture or an image or a PDF related to a known coordinate system. So we cannot use place image. We actually have a known coordinate system, which is the CAD data. So I'm going to close place image. You can see that I've already gone through and I have actually brought in the CAD file and I've brought in the picture. Now what I'm going to do first on the picture or the image, it's a JPEG, I'm going to right mouse key. I'm going to go to the properties. Ladies and gentlemen, I just do not like the white background. So I'm going to go to display style dimmed, okay, to make it gray, like you've seen in several other videos. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I need to orient this picture to that CAD data or a known coordinate system. So I'm going to right mouse key first, move that CAD data over, and then when I right mouse key over the image, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to georeference image. Georeference is a big word, meaning to geographically relate a picture or an image to a known coordinate system. A known coordinate system could be Northings and Eastings that you got on the paper, or CAD information, CAD data, CAD line work. Great. Well, that's what I'm going to do. So if we right mouse key and go to georeference image, okay, there are two columns, pixel column and location column. Now the word pixel is a different word, but it relates to picture. You pick a spot on the picture and then you relate it to its ground location for the CAD data. Okay, I have to do add first before I can start that process. So for the picture, pixel, for picture A, I need to go pick the spot. Well, that A is not the right spot. I want it to be, I can't snap. This is a raster image, not a vector image. So I'm just going to eyeball the best that I can in the middle of that blue corner there. That's pixel A, picture A. I now have to relate that off the picture to the CAD data. So that blue box relates to the gray box for the CAD line. So I'm going to go that location. You have to have at least two locations. So I'm going to add again. pixel B, no, that's not it. On the picture, I eyeball best I can the middle of the blue box. I want that to be related or located in space to the real northing and easting at the corner of that CAD line. So I picked there as the ground location. Okay, great. And now pick compute. So once you pick compute, it scales and rotates to get the picture as good as you can to relate to the CAD data. Oh, okay, all right. Let's go clean up the screen. I'm going to go to the view filter. I'm going to turn off all of the layers. I am going to turn on the proposed building, the proposed parking lot, which is called FD curbs. Now that line right there is open. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to right mouse key. I want to close it. So I'm going to go to the properties and close it. Well, I can't. This is something that I get a question on quite often. So people call me and say, hey, I brought in this CAD file. I've got a line and it doesn't have a property to close. I can't close it. Well, look at the property. It's called a 3D polyline. It's a very basic CAD entity. And for that basic CAD entity, there is no property for closing and opening. Well, that's not going to work, Jay. What you have to do is to pick the line, right mouse key, pick edit. And once you pick edit, it converts it to a quote line string. Once it's a line string and it's a much now smarter entity inside of Trimble Business Center, I've even got that auto closed. So I pick that. Now it's closed. If I went to the properties of that, that's a line string, no longer a polyline. See, auto close, yes, and it shows an area. If a line is not closed, I'll open it back up, say auto close to no. If a line is not closed, it won't show or denote the area. You must close it to show the area. Okay, great. So that line is now closed. So that's a 3D slab, building slab. That's a 3D parking lot. And I'm going to turn on FD contours, which are my proposed contours. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take all of this and I'm just going to make a surface out of it. So I'm going to grab it. I am going to go to under surfaces. I'm going to go to create surface. There are several videos, training videos that talk about and show doing create surface. There's even a long video that talks about creating a surface and controlling the surface. That's a big deal. You got to learn to control the actual model or surface that you want to use. Okay, so I'm going to go to create surface. I'm going to call this finish surface. Okay, don't use color gray for the surface. I'm going to give it color orange. So I gave it a color. I selected the 3D data that I do want to control the model of the surface, and I'm going to pick OK. All right, fine. So what? Well, ladies and gentlemen, now I have a model. I've got data of surface. Okay. Well, here's the deal. If I go to 3D view to go look at the surface, there's the surface. Okay. I am going to trim some of my lines right quick. So I'm going to trim the surface. Surface, trim surface edge. Almost every surface needs to be trimmed. Now I won't say exactly each and every one, but many do. Okay, so I trim the surface. All right. If I go back to the 3D view, I now have a model. I've got a surface. Great. Okay. I've actually done that before, Jay. So what's the deal? Well, I'm going to go back to plan. I would like to show you how to take this picture. That's an image. It's a picture, a JPEG, a raster. It could be a PDF. I don't care. I want to show you how to take a picture that is only 2D and turn it into a live, living 3D picture. It is quite cool. Okay? Now, some people would think of this as doing a capability in software called draping. Okay, let's say we took a piece of plastic that's 50 feet by 50 feet out in the field, and we unfolded it on the ground, and everybody got to the corners, and we had quite a few people. We picked it up and we lifted this piece of plastic as we were holding it, and there was a hill, okay, little small hill, and we all draped the plastic over the hill. Well, the plastic would then conform to the actual shape of the hill. Well, that's the intent. That's the gimmick that I'm trying to show you. I can take a picture and have the picture draped onto a surface and to make it fully 3D. This is neat. This is cool. Okay? So, here's the trick. What you want to do is you go to the Project Explorer. The first thing that you have to do to start making it happen is you have to actually select or highlight the image. This is a JPEG. Again, any image, PDF page from a set of plans, you can turn it into a 3D live living picture. Okay? Kind of like looking at it in Google 3D, Google Earth, that kind of thing. All right? Okay. So what you do to start this process, you select the image, and then, ladies and gentlemen, you right mouse key, and it's called Add Remove Surface Members. Now, this is a strange command to pick for this because, see, that picture is not 3D. It's not a 3D line. So it's not going to control the surface. But this is the gimmick. If you take the image and you use Add Remove Surface Members, this is way cool. Watch this. I can take the surface. I've already got a surface. I only have one right now. I can take a model or a surface. I can select the image or the picture, and I can push the Add button. It says one objects were added to the surface, but hold on, Jay. Hold on. This is not impressing me. I don't see any difference. Well, to really see the difference, ladies and gentlemen, you must go to 3D view. I'm going to go back to 3D view. Oh, wait, hold on. Just a second. That picture, that's cool. That picture actually looks like it's been draped onto the surface. Now, I'm actually going to show you some additional controls to even make a better presentation of this. Okay? So, I'm wanting you to see the subtle things, but that's the first step. You simply take, after you make a surface, got to have the surface. Okay? I've got the surface. After you have a surface, you select the image or picture, and you go to Add Remove Surface Members. That's the first deal of adding the picture as a member to the model to, quote, drape it onto the surface in the background. The next thing that I would actually recommend that you do, I'm going to go back to the View Filter, and I'm going to turn off the CAD line work. So I'm going to turn off the lines first. Okay? Then I highly recommend that you pick the surface and go to the properties of the surface. Ladies and gentlemen, normally when you're looking at the image draped onto the surface, you actually don't want to see the wireframe, the triangle. So here, show in 3D view. You definitely, where it says wireframe, you probably do not want to have that displayed. So set the wireframe property in 3D view, not in plan. Don't worry about it in plan. show in 3D view, you go to the wireframe and you say no. Well, that's not impressing me a lot, Jay. I still see the triangle. Well, you got to deselect. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Huh. That's neat. That's cool. Okay. Well, now let's go back to the properties of that surface. If you go back to the properties of the surface, you might want to look at different colors, maybe dark blue. Okay, they call it blue. I call it dark blue, but again, whatever. Okay, dark blue. I like these blue bands. That really seems to have a kind of a glow to them. All right. So if you make the surface blue, then what happens is any of the background 3D lines, and this property is subtle under properties, 3D view, it's called break lines. Yes, you do typically want to display the break lines. If you say no, it's just the picture. That's great. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I definitely like to see the blue lines or some color of the lines. And what that is, the property is called show in 3D view. It's yes, you typically do want to see the break lines. So I definitely have that set to yes. Now, some people have vertices set to yes. I don't predominantly like that. I want you to see it. But if I set the vertices in 3D view, set the vertices to yes, it's got these little dots. I mean, that's where the vertices of the 3D lines are, but I don't like that, but that's what that capability is. Do you want to see the original vertices of the 3D lines in 3D view? And I'm going to say no to that. So under show in 3D view, I typically have vertices set to no and wireframe set to no. Okay? All right. Great. We're doing well. Okay? Now, if you say, oh, I mean, if you kill the properties, I'm going to go scrutinize this. Now let me show you another subtle change that you can do in the or for the properties of the model or surface that makes a visual kind of change that you may or may not like. But sometimes, depending upon the picture, I will actually, on the properties of the surface, I will actually go to what is called 3D view. It says show shadows. Now, the shadows is the depiction of the sun coming from a certain direction. You don't know which direction that is, but I'm just wanting to show you this. If you drape an image onto a surface to where the image is now 3D, you may play around with show shadows. I'm going to say show shadows to no. Oh, okay. All right. Again, I like the shadows. See, the shadows tend to show me more of the ups and downs, and so personally, I do like to show the shadows. So if under the 3D view I say show shadows, I set this back to yes, and I just look at that. Well, Jay, it looks a little dark. You know? Okay. Well, another thing that actually is controlling that is since or this was a J thing, due to the JPEG of the image, I went to that under the display properties of that. I set the display style to dimmed. Again, that takes the white background and dims it to gray. Well, now let's change the display style to none, back to none. Oh, Oh, okay. So I can kind of see more of the paper. Okay. So if it's too dark with show shadows, if you change the display style from none to dimmed, that is also contributing to the gray shading or grayness or color of gray that you see in the picture. Now, I'm just wanting to show you all of these different subtle settings because what you're wanting to do is to be able to show this to a client, your boss. I mean, you know, you impress some people and hey, that guy may know what he's doing a little bit. So again, these techniques of displaying this type of information can help you from time to time. Okay. All right. Okay. So another thing is I'm going to go back to the 3D view, or we're already here. And now I want to show you something. If I move this and I tilt it over to where I'm looking underneath it a little bit, see, it looks like I'm seeing the bottom of the page. Okay, so I wanted to show you. I've tilted it over so I'm essentially kind of looking underneath it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very subtle setting for a surface. So I'm going to go back to the surface, properties. This again is a very subtle setting, show in 3D view. It has to do what is called back faces. Do you want to see for a particular surface, do you want to see the back side or the back faces of the model? Well, I don't know what that is. Well, let's change the back faces from yes to no. If you do change the back faces to no, be aware that when you're looking at the underneath, you're looking through it. You know, you may not like that. If I'm looking down on the top, I'm still okay, that's good. But if you do tend to tilt images over to look underneath them for something, you might really want to have the quote back faces set to yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is definitely a J thing. In show in 3D view, yes, I always leave my back faces. I would like to see the back side of the surface or the model. Okay, so I'm looking at the top, but if I tilt it over, yes, I can then kind of see underneath it. If I'm looking at the side, see, I'm now seeing the underside of the pond here. Well, let me even show you this. I'm going to go to plan view. Ladies and gentlemen, if I go to the view filter, there's a layer in this data set called 3D pipe storm. So I'm going to turn that on. Now it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to go change the color of the layer of this data. I want you to see this. I'm going to change it from that. I'm going to change it to red instead of orange. I'm actually going to make it a little thicker so you can see it, line weight of 1. So that is the 3D lines for the storm sewer. Well, so what, Jay? Well, if I go to 3D view, look at this. You can actually see the piping looks like it's draining right into that pond. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I can see the collection of the storm water through these 3D lines and draining into that pond. Okay. But again, you really need to have the quote back faces on to be able to understand and get a good feel for what you're looking at, especially if you're showing somebody else. Okay? All right. So looking or being able to see the back side of a surface or the back faces, I think it does help the 3D view. Now, when you make a surface, there is a default setting for what's called, under the properties of that surface, there is a transparency. See, transparency by default, when you create a surface every single time, the transparency is automatically set to 20. If you didn't want to see that pipe looking at it from the top, you would want to set the transparency to 0. See, now I can't see through the actual surface. Okay, it is 0 transparent. It's still there, but I can't see through it. Do not set the transparency to 100. Don't do that. It will be totally invisible. That would be bad. Okay? All right. So this little exercise that we were talking about here was actually being able to take a 3D picture from any set of plans or image or raster, a PDF, all of those, and basically add them. You take the image, the JPEG, and you go add, remove, surface members. That takes the picture and essentially or mathematically drapes it onto the model to make it become 3D looking. And then there are a lot of subtle things that you can change for the display of the surface itself to make it better or typically what you want to see to impress somebody. So, ladies and gentlemen, I love this capability of taking a picture of the plans, turning it in and making it 3D. And personally, I drape the picture of the plans onto the proposed surface or finished surface. I don't drape it onto the existing. The only time is if I pulled in a set of paper plans and the picture was the existing conditions of the site, existing contours, that kind of stuff, maybe existing with demolition and erosion control. Okay, so I wanted you to actually see and understand that. All right, so thanks very much. I hope you all have a great day. Let me know if you've got any questions. Hello, thanks very much for reviewing my training video. I do hope that it was helpful for you. My name is Jay McGregor, and I would like to tell you about my background and experience. If you've already heard this, please close the video at this point. Back in 1987, I began working with +3 Software, and that company is the one that started writing and developing the program called Trimble. In 1988, when Trimble started shipping, myself and Bill Denny became the training department for that particular software package. That progressed until Spectra Physics bought us, and Spectra Physics changed their name to Spectra Precision, and in 1996, Spectra Precision started developing and creating the first machine control system that they were doing was called Blade Pro 3D. That was being controlled by the geodometer total station, tracking the 360-degree prism, so you could get fine grading out of the Blade Pro 3D system. And for that first year, myself and another gentleman in my department made all of the models for the machine control that was sold before they started letting the client start making their models for themselves. In 2011, Trimble created the Trimble Certified Trainer Program, and I became a certified trainer on Trimble Business Center back then. And since then, I have been training on the software and using it for 3D blade machine control and any software, hardware system out there. I can create 3D models for all of the Trimble and the TopCon systems. I have also been training since that time on real world projects to train the clients and the dealers' clients, whatever their software and project demands were. And I still continue to do that type of training, 3D data prep, and technical support even to today. I do hope that you enjoyed hearing about this. And if you have any more questions, I would definitely love to hear from you. My email is at the bottom. It's jaymcgregor@bellsouth.net. Love to hear you and hope to see you in the future. Have a great day. Thank you very much.